What if I told you there's a part of your mind that never sleeps? A silent force working behind the scenes, deciding your actions, shaping your future, even when you don't realize it. Most people let it run on autopilot, but a rare few, learn how to control it. And when they do, life changes in ways so big, it almost feels like magic. The rain hammered against the apartment windows in Seattle, Washington. Mark Daniels sat alone on his couch, staring at a rejection email glowing on his laptop screen. It was the 4th time this month. He had been trying to start his own marketing business for over a year, but nothing was working. In his head, he kept hearing the same whisper, "You're not good enough." That night, in frustration, he searched YouTube for how to reprogram your mind. What he found would change the next 12 months of his life forever. 2 weeks later, Mark drove to Portland for a small seminar titled Unlock Your Subconscious. The speaker, Dr. Evelyn Hart, was in her late 50s, with calm eyes that seemed to look right into you. She said something that froze the entire room. Your conscious mind makes decisions, but your subconscious mind decides your life. Mark leaned forward. She explained that 95% of our actions, beliefs, and habits are controlled by the subconscious. And unless you learn to send it clear, direct messages, it will just repeat old programming forever. Dr. Hart revealed technique number 1. The subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It responds to repetition and emotion. She taught the group how to craft a short, present tense statement, an affirmation that feels emotionally real, as if the goal is already achieved. Then, you repeat it in a relaxed state, especially before sleep. Mark wrote his first statement. "I am a confident, successful business owner, attracting the right clients every day." It felt awkward at first, but Dr. Hart promised, if you do this for 21 days, your subconscious will believe it. And when it believes, it finds a way to make it real. The first week was hard. Every night before bed, Mark would close his eyes, slow his breathing, and repeat his affirmation. But the old voice in his head would laugh. "You? Successful? Please." Dr. Hart had warned them. The conscious mind will fight back at first. The trick was to attach real feelings to the words. So Mark began imagining himself in a bright, sunlit office, shaking hands with new clients, his phone buzzing with payments. Slowly, the resistance began to fade. On day 12 of his nightly practice, Mark got a call from a former colleague who had seen one of his old projects online. They needed urgent marketing help. It wasn't huge money, but it was the first client in months. Mark couldn't explain it, but something inside him felt different when he spoke on the call. More certain, more natural. It was as if the subconscious had quietly replaced the old, "I'm not good enough" tape with a new one. "I know what I'm doing." At the next seminar session, Dr. Hart introduced technique number 2. Your subconscious will start sending you hints, sudden ideas, gut feelings, flashes of inspiration. Most people ignore them. You must act on them immediately. She explained that when you act quickly on a subconscious nudge, you strengthen the connection between your inner mind and outer reality. Mark made a promise to himself. The next time he felt a strong idea, he'd move on it instantly. A week later, Mark was working at a Starbucks downtown. A thought popped into his head. Talk to the woman at the next table. His old self would have ignored it. Too awkward, too random. But remembering Dr. Hart's rule, he leaned over and said, "Hey, I overheard you talking about your startup. I'm in marketing. Maybe I can help." That random conversation turned into his biggest contract of the year. By month 3, Mark noticed that he was no longer forcing his affirmations. They felt natural. He had moved from pretending to being. His morning runs felt more energized, his voice on client calls more confident. Dr. Hart explained that this was the subconscious doing its job, filtering his attention toward opportunities, giving him energy at the right moments, and helping him communicate better without thinking about it. One night, Mark looked around his small home office and realized he had doubled his monthly income. But more than the money, something else had shifted. He no longer saw himself as trying to be successful. He simply was. And he knew he was only halfway through this journey. The subconscious had accepted the message. Now it was time to see just how far it could take him. It was a cold January morning in Seattle. Mark stood in front of his mirror, buttoning his blazer. On his desk sat a flyer for a National Entrepreneurs Networking event in New York City. The ticket price alone was more than half his monthly rent. The old Mark would have said, too risky. But his gut, that quiet voice from within, said, go. This is your moment. He booked the flight before his logical brain could talk him out of it. The hotel ballroom in Manhattan was buzzing with more than 300 business owners from across the country. Mark's palms were sweating as he sipped his coffee and scanned the crowd. But instead of feeling like an outsider, he repeated his mental script. I am a confident, successful business owner, attracting the right clients every day. It wasn't just words anymore. His body language shifted, his smile felt natural, and people began approaching him first. By the end of the first evening, he had exchanged business cards with a dozen high-value contacts. On the second day, fate intervened. The hotel elevator doors opened, and standing inside was Daniel Cross, a New York real estate mogul Mark had admired for years. Mark felt that same subconscious nudge. Speak now. His heart pounded, but he introduced himself and delivered a 30-second pitch about his marketing work. Daniel listened, smiled, and said, "Send me your portfolio." Mark almost couldn't believe it. The biggest opportunity of his career had just happened between floors 9 and 3. Back home, Mark spent weeks perfecting a proposal for Daniel's company. Every night before sleep, he pictured himself shaking Daniel's hand and sealing the deal. He didn't just imagine the moment. He imagined the feeling, the pride, the relief, the deep gratitude. Dr. Hart's voice echoed in his head. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between real and vividly imagined. Feed it the feeling, and it will create the path. A month later, Mark received Daniel's reply. It was polite, but a no. The old Mark would have seen it as the end. But now he treated it as feedback, not failure. He revised his proposal, added new creative strategies, and, following another gut feeling, mailed Daniel a physical package instead of just emailing it. It cost him extra time and money, but his subconscious was screaming, "Do it." 2 weeks later, Mark's phone rang. Daniel's assistant said, "He got your package. He's impressed. Can you be in New York on Monday?" Mark nearly dropped the phone. This wasn't just a project. It was a contract worth 6 figures. He booked his flight without hesitation, realizing that every step, the affirmations, the gut nudges, the instant actions, had led to this exact moment. The skyscraper's glass walls reflected the Manhattan skyline as Mark entered Daniel's corner office. He spoke with calm confidence, showing not just what his marketing could do, but why he believed it would work. Daniel leaned back, nodded slowly, and said, "You've got the job." Mark shook his hand, the exact handshake he'd been imagining for months. It felt surreal, like déjà vu, but he knew exactly why. His subconscious had rehearsed it until reality caught up. Over the next year, Mark's business exploded. That one contract led to media coverage, referrals, and speaking invitations. But what amazed him most wasn't the money. It was how different his life felt. He trusted himself. He took action without overthinking. The fear and hesitation that used to control him were gone, replaced by a quiet certainty. If I can see it in my mind and feel it in my heart, I can make it happen. One evening, Mark returned to Portland for another of Dr. Hart's seminars. This time, he wasn't a student in the audience. He was on stage, telling his story. He looked at the crowd and said, "Your subconscious is like fertile soil. Whatever seed you plant, fear or faith, will grow. You have to choose your seed, water it with repetition and emotion, and when it whispers to you, act immediately. That's the formula. That's how you get whatever you want." As applause filled the room, Mark smiled. The man who once doubted himself now lived a life shaped by his own inner programming. Proof that the subconscious mind, when directed with purpose, could turn a dream into reality. If this story inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe for more life-changing stories, and share this with someone who needs a boost today. Your next breakthrough starts here. Don't miss it.